Hello, analysts. We are here today to discuss the matchup between the Kansas City Chiefs and the Houston Texans. And so to not waste any time, because this will likely be our longest video of the series, let's just jump right in. I'm going to start with the away team, which is the Houston Texans. And so I'm going to be ranking my initial thoughts. I'm going to be ranking based on 3 C's. Their cuteness, their clarity, and their creativity. So to start, we have Toro, the Texan of the Houston Texans. Right off the bat, cuteness, I'm giving him a 9 out of 5. Look at this face. Look at how adorable this mascot is. And know what you're thinking, why is he not a 10? I'll talk about that a little bit later when we get into this analysis, because there is something that deducts that point for me, but a very strong showing at a 9 out of 5 on cuteness. The second is clarity. You look at Toro and you know this is the mascot for the Houston Texans, and it connects to the city of Houston in a way that makes sense. I mean, you think of Texas and you think of a few things: guns, abortion bans, Beyonce, cowboy boots, bull riding, right? And so we have Toro here, who's not just connected to the Texans team, but to Texas itself in an integral way. So we see he is also winning out on this category. And so for the clarity category, I'm giving him a 10 out of 10. And our last category that we have is the creativity. And this is really based on the name itself. Is the name creative, but still creative in a way that makes sense? And so for the name, I was initially tempted to give it a 10 out of 10 right off the bat for Toro. I really like it. You know, it's bull in Spanish, so he's pulling in the Spanish culture of Texas. We know Texas has a lot of Spanish-speaking folks, but when you look more online, you see a couple different high schools and stuff in Texas do have the name Toro as well. And so for that reason, I'm gonna give him an 8.5 in this category. Okay, so moving on. As you all know, I like to go into the history first before we go into the present day. We know the history really shapes these mascots and it makes them who they are today. The past is an integral part to the present, and the lore can add or take away from the present day. But imagine my shock when I was trying to do research to see the history of the Texans mascot when Toro just popped out and said, "Bitch, I'm one of one." And so he is the only mascot that the Houston Texans have had. He came on in 2001, so he is newer among some of the mascots, but has been their reigning mascot for some time, which is pretty gangster. Pretty gangster move to say, I'm it, I'm the one. However, what takes away a little bit from this and actually adds a point into the Kansas City's favor is that Toro, the mascot, I guess, you know, the human, said that he was actually inspired by the Kansas City mascot when he came to his school when he was in 5th grade. That's what inspired him to want to become a mascot in the first place. And so they always make these jokes in football when they make incredible plays saying, oh, he's his father, he made him, you know, he's his daddy, whatever. Literally in this sense, the Kansas City mascot said, I am your father. He gave birth to Toro. With no Kansas City, there would be no Toro. So we have to give Kansas City their flowers as Toro did in this sense. Now, the next category that I want to jump into is uniqueness. Is there something about this mascot that they do that is unique to them that we don't see other mascots doing at all? And Toro does have something that makes him stand out. So for Toro, the biggest change that he has is a changing of the fur. So he doesn't just stick with the black kind of navy-ish blue look all throughout, but we see that he changes to match the different outfits of the team. So here he has the red fur look. So the Texans, they have an all red jersey that they wear, I believe, once a year. And so he'll match that look as well once a year. And then he also has this look, a neon blue fur. So this is related to Houston's colors. I guess it's kind of this neon blue. And we do see there's one game where they wear this blue. They even kind of change their logo. I think they spray paint that blue logo on the field as well. So we see he changes his fur to match the colors of the team. Now, this is the one thing that did push him down in the cuteness category for me. I don't like the Red Bull as much. It doesn't look as cute to me as the black one does. So I couldn't give him the full 10 there for that. But wow. the dedication to just change your identity to always be that of the team. And granted, you know, not all mascots can do this. We do have a couple human mascots, so we don't want unintentional blackface on our hands. But Toro uses his unfair advantage in that he's an animal. So if he changes his fur, there's no unintentional racism that can happen. And we love that from Toro. Now, the next that I want to talk about, let's get into the sports a little bit and talk about his accolades, you know, sports-wise, game-wise, before we go into an arguably more important category of their social media presence. So in terms of accolades, I bet you didn't know, I had no clue, that not just players, but mascots can be selected to go to the Pro Bowl. Crazy, right? And Toro has not just been selected to go once, not twice, not 3 times, not even 5 times. He is an 11-time Pro Bowler. 11. There are players on the active roster who will never even dream of having near as many Pro Bowl attendance as Toro had. So that is impeccable, because only the best are selected. Another thing you also probably didn't know, which I didn't until I was doing this research, is that just like how players can have their player of the year, so the MVP, so can mascots. They can win NFL Mascot of the Year. And guess what? Toro won in 2021, so very recently too, and this is voted on by all the other mascots. So that's right, in 2021, the mascot said, you know what, Toro, you are better than us, we're gonna make you the Mascot of the Year. That means that he is doing something that is putting him above the rest. Okay, next we are gonna jump into our biggest category, the social media presence. So how are they doing on those social medias? What is their memeability like? How are they interacting with the different fans and their audiences on social media? What does that look like? So we'll start with this TikTok. And I'm gonna read these stats off for you because these are impressive and I don't wanna mess up any of them. So starting with this TikTok, and I don't actually have TikTok, so I did have to Google and look at these stats. I know that's a very boomer thing of me to do, but that's where we are. So on TikTok, at least at the point that I read these stats, he could have more. He had over 420,000 followers. I mean, human influencers aren't even getting those numbers, but Toro is. He had over 5 million likes on his posts. He ranks as the 4th most followed NFL TikTok account. That's not just mascots, that is the whole NFL. So that is any player, any coach, any mascot, everyone. The 4th most. Let that sink in. And then while you're letting that sink in, let me add something else on top of it. He is the 3rd most followed US sports mascot. Now that is not just NFL, that's every mascot. Now, I only know for sure that baseball also has mascots. I don't know about the other sports, but baseball has a couple crazy ones that do a lot of antics that people love. So for him to be ranked 3rd amongst all the sports, again, speaks to his dedication and his work and his interaction amongst the fans, his likability amongst the fans. These numbers are incredible. Mascots aren't doing these numbers in 2025, people. This is incredible work that Toro is putting in to get these MVP level stats. Now let's shift over to Instagram. Instagram gives us a little bit more of the memeability aspect. So let's see how Toro is doing in this aspect. So the picture I'm getting ready to show came out around the time of Ted Lasso. And as we can see here, Toro is dressed as Ted Lasso himself with the mustache and the jacket. But what's so amazing, the believe sign with the bull, no notes. Nothing further, Your Honor. That's it. Next post that we see here that was going to be my favorite until I saw the last post that I think will be you all's favorite too is this one here. We have the text that says, when's the next Texans game? And then we see him dressed as Domingo from SNL. And so Domingo in Spanish meaning Sunday, most of their games on Sunday. And then his caption says, I'm here, like Domingo does in SNL. So this is incredible. He knows the culture. And this very last one, he is untouchable in this category because of this one. We see here that it says, when you go outside and then you realize there's a couple of Toros in the atmosphere, and then the caption says, brr, it's cold in here. All of us millennials, as we heard that, should have started singing. And for me, again, that just shows that he is not just in tune with and cares about his younger audience, you know, with TikTok, more Gen Z, Gen Alpha, but also doesn't want to leave us millennials behind. And the kind of last in the miscellaneous category, I will say, is that one, Toro just has swag. Look at this, literally. He is here with his Flava Flav like bull chain that says Toro on it. He has a full grill and has the glasses. What mascot is doing that? I believe that he is ready to rap battle the biggest rappers out here. And if he makes it to Detroit versus the Lions, then I truly believe he would call out Eminem for a battle and probably beat him. That's how much swag Toro has. And lastly, we see that he is unafraid. He is daring. This is from his Instagram that he regularly, each of his games, enter in just flying across the whole stadium, and has actually won Video of the Year and Stunt of the Year many, many times. Kansas City has a high bar to live up to after just seeing all that. Speaking of which, let's go over to Kansas City. Now, I know what you all are thinking because I have mentioned in my previous video how much I do dislike this mascot, but there was a lot of surprises here for me with the Kansas City mascot. So let's go into our initial thoughts right off the bats. So the Kansas City mascot, he is called the KC Wolf. Now, to start with cuteness, I'm gonna put him at a 1 out of 10. I think that's pretty generous. I say 1 just because, you know, maybe in the eyes and that part, it's kinda, I can see a little bit of cuteness, but this thing is creepy. It's ugly. It's not a mascot that I would want to see often, that I'm excited for when I go to a game. Next, we go into the clarity. Now, I think it goes without saying he's getting a 0 out of 10 in this category. You look at it and you are like, what is this? First of all, I had no clue it was a wolf. I thought it was maybe a raccoon. I literally had no clue what it was. And even now knowing what it is, how does that relate to the Kansas City Chiefs at all? At first glance, you have to do research to figure out how. So their immediate clarity is at a 0 out of 10. Lastly, we go to creativity. Like we said, is just for the name category. And so for this one, I'm also gonna put it at a 0 out of 10. KC literally stands for Kansas City, and it is a wolf. I mean, if I asked my 5-year-old niece, hey, what would you call this? She might come up with the exact same name. So that is just lack of innovation, a lack of creativity that from an NFL level mascot cannot fly. So he's already starting out not that strong. Let's jump into the history and see if this makes it a little bit better. So the KC Wolf first came on in 1989. So he has a good bit of years on Toro right from the bat. And so let's try to figure out where this KC name came from. So in doing research, we see that the name came from the team's Wolf Pack, which is what they call a group of fans that would gather in the municipal stadiums. And so kind of makes sense in the sense that people will name a group of folks Wolf Pack, but also I'm not bought by it. Now, before KC Wolf, we did have one other mascot. This was a live animal mascot, our first live animal mascot so far of the playoffs. And so this was a live horse called Warpaint. I know, we'll get into some of the problematic Native American themes in a minute. So this horse was called Warpaint. It came on the scene in 1955, so it was there for a while. They retired it in 1989 to put into place KC Wolf for some crazy reason. And KC Wolf was the only mascot until 2009 when they brought back Warpaint, and they were really thinking, what's gonna get the people really engaged and excited about this return of Warpaint? I know, let's put a smoking hot blonde Kansas City cheerleader on top of Warpaint to bob around as they do their entrance. That'll get the people going. And you know what? Kansas City, they know their fans well. They knew that there was probably a couple perverts there, and they did love it. The fans went crazy for it. Before this, I think they had kind of the traditional, similar to what you see with Florida State, how they might have a chief ride on the horse, but they said, no, we want the blonde. In 2021, however, amidst the national scandal of certain teams that would use Native American imagery, Warpaint was retired, maybe for good, we'll see. America, as we know, has a history of continuing to bring out problematic things. So we may see Warpaint again. Now we'll jump into uniqueness for KC Wolf. So there's nothing in terms of outfits, nothing special there that he does to make him stand out, which I don't really like. We have a picture here from an AFC championship game where he's kind of imitating Mahomes. He has the hair and the sweatband, so, you know, a little bit of creativity there, but nothing major. Where he does shine in the uniqueness is what he does off the field. And so for some reason, the KC Wolf is in incredibly high demand as a speaker, giving more than 150 speeches per year across the United States. So going to schools and God knows where else to give speeches. This is more than any other mascot by far. And it's not just the US. Apparently he's gone to other countries even like Japan. Here's a picture of him with some African children. Like, I don't understand this bit at all, but I think we do have to talk about this because it shows for some reason he is in demand. The people want to see him, the people want to hear from him. So that is definitely unique to KC Wolf. Now we will actually do an inverse of our last two categories and start with social media presence. That's because there is basically none from KC Wolf. It is drier than the Sahara Desert with his socials. His last Instagram post was from 2022, so 2 years ago now. Now we did have some other posts with the Texans kind of leading up to their game, but he didn't post that on Instagram. You know, you can tag other folks and it'll pop up also on their page. That's what it was. So he posted himself from 2022. And this Instagram page has been active since 2016. And he only had, I think it was 84, 86 posts. Now I want you to pause here and think about a friend that you know that has been on Instagram at least for a period of years. They're not super active on Instagram. Now I want you to stop, go to their Instagram page and see how many posts they have. Guarantee it's probably gonna be more than 84. Yes, it probably is. This mascot won the Super Bowl the past 2 years in a row, and you never know it from their social media. I'd have to actually watch the football game to figure that out, which is crazy. Like, do you have pride in your team's accomplishments? And I mean, maybe KC Get the Bag Wolf is just too busy with all these speaking arrangements to actually do these posts, but it's an important part of the interaction with fans and the team. I mean, he has one post here from 2017 that gave me a little hee-hee, but that's really it. And obviously, if he doesn't have Instagram, we don't even need to talk about TikTok. He doesn't have that. So I was really let down here by the social media presence. But here we go to accolades. And this is where we really start a roller coaster ride with KC that I wasn't expecting. We reach some very high highs, and then we reach some really low lows. And this level of inconsistency is very concerning, and I'll circle back to that in the end. And so another thing I didn't know existed was an mascot Hall of Fame. And guess what? There are currently only 3 NFL mascots that are in there. So this is a very exclusive club. If you get in here, that is big. And the KC Wolf was inducted into the Mascot Hall of Fame in 2006. It was the first mascot inducted into the Hall of Fame. And to be the first says something. Above all the other mascots, they decided you were the best one. There are only 2 others, like I said. So one is the Colts mascot, the other is the Jacksonville Jags mascot. The Colts mascot was inducted in 2019 and the Jags in 2024. So what we see is that the KC Wolf stood alone for, 13 years in the Hall of Fame himself. That is huge. We cannot overlook that for the KC Wolf. And their mascot right now, the man behind the mask, is the same one that's been there since 1990, just the year after they started. He is entering his 35th year as a mascot. He has been to numerous Super Bowls. I mean, he's more seasoned and ready to play than probably a lot of the players on the team right now. So we can't take that away from him. And you might think, oh, he's probably looking rough and half dead after being a mascot for that time. Nope. Look at him. Looks great. Now, he's never gone to a Pro Bowl as opposed to Toro, who's been to 11, but we really can't necessarily put that against him. I mean, he's been in a lot of Super Bowls, and if you're in the Super Bowl, you don't go to the Pro Bowl. So, you know, he's kind of like, well, I'm just busy being better than you to go to the Pro Bowl. So I can't knock him for that one. But he has never won Mascot of the Year. Now, we saw that Toro won this in 2021, and this mascot has been around since 1989. And to add to that, he was actually in 2022 voted by NFL fans. There was about 1,000 fans that they polled, voted by NFL fans the worst mascot by a good bit. And there are some bad mascots. The ones that he was under was atrocious. So it was on a scale of, I think, 0 or 1 to 10. He was at a 2.2. Very low. The next one was at a 2.5, so he was low. Now, I know what you might be thinking. Is this the Taylor Swift effect? You know, some disgruntled fans seeing her over and over at all the games, thinking that she's forcing their hand to vote against Casey Wolf and saying, look what you made me do. But she didn't make her first appearance at a Chiefs game until September of 2023. So this couldn't have been Taylor's doing. So to the disgruntled fans out there, you need to calm down. You're being too loud. So while there might be bad blood between the Kansas City fans towards her, this should not be one of the reasons for that. So she's officially out of the woods when it comes to getting voted worst mascot. Now, the last thing I will say in terms of the miscellaneous categories, also his dedication, that he is one of the mascots as well that'll regularly zip line into the stadium and do these crazy stunts. And actually in 2013, so over 10 years ago, he nearly died practicing one of these stunts for the Kansas City game. So he was in a harness, he wasn't in the costume, he was practicing, and there was some malfunction. So instead of falling from 25 feet, he fell from 75 feet in the air, crashed down on the seats, hit with such force that 2 of the seats lifted from the concrete. And he left, of course, with severe injuries, but it is a miracle he did not die. And after that, he still decided to be a mascot. Listen, if it was me and I fell from that height, I'm hanging the costume up. But he said, no, this is my passion. This is what I love to do. And so that level of dedication can't be ignored, truly. So of course, we can't just go with my opinion. It's always important for me to try to make sure I'm not being biased and look at what some of the experts are saying. So I've returned back to the USA Today post that ranked all of our NFL mascots. There's about 26 or 27 of them, ranking them from best to worst. So the best having the lower numbers. So what we see Toro up at number 8. I was surprised. This felt a little bit lower to me, number 8, especially as the last ranking that we had, we saw Victor the Viking up at 4. And so number 8 did feel a little bit low, but still a good showing. Now this next one, I wasn't surprised at the position, was Casey Wolf, number 19. I think well-deserved, and like I said, there's a lot of bad mascots out here, so honestly, some of the ones below him do deserve to be there. And this description, when I read this, it just illuminated everything for me. But the Casey Wolf looks like if Chuck E. Cheese was a Goosebumps character. That is an apt description. And so taking in the experts, they are even ranking the Casey Wolf low. This is not looking good in his favor, right? Like I said, he has such high highs. He's a Super Bowl mascot. You know, he has been dedicated for such a long time. He inspired Toro, but there's just some things that I can't quite get behind. One of them just being the wolf himself. I mean, this is an NFL mascot. We see that you can get a wolf costume from Halloween Express for $100 that looks more realistic to a wolf than Casey Wolf does. You can also get one from Walmart for $61 that looks more like a wolf than Casey Wolf does. So I beg to ask, why does an NFL mascot that's supposed to be a wolf not look like what it's supposed to be? And so I know that this would be a big underdog here, but my pick to win the second round of the playoffs between the Kansas City Chiefs and the Houston Texans is Toro the Bull and the Houston Texans. I think Kansas City is not going to want to get into the ring with that bull, and no amount of red flag waving is going to stop him from running them over. So congratulations to the Texans. But of course, we don't just stop there. Now for fun, I've been adding to the end of these, thinking, do the statistics, will they also match up mascot with hottest QB? So this is where we'll enter CJ Stroud and Patrick Mahomes into the ranking. This is by far and will be by far my most upsetting matching that we have. So this is our second official light skin battle of the playoffs. We first had Jalen Hurts and Jordan Love, a much more attractive pairing. Of course, Jalen won that one, which is probably what lifted the Eagles team to that win over Green Bay. But here it's tough. We'll start with CJ Stroud. He just always looks sad. Why does he always look so sad? And he's just like kind of frumpy, you know? It just, I don't know, something about, he has like a droopy face. It's upsetting to me. I see the potential, but as we know, you shouldn't date nor rank hottest quarterback based on their potential. It's a recipe for disaster. But we saw this with the ranking as well between Matthew Stafford and Sam Darnold. Was the beard or no beard effect, or the hat versus no hat effect. So we will also put that into play to see if that helps elevate CJ Stroud. And what we see is for him, with the hat, he's a little bit hotter. So the hat does help. With the hat, this makes me a little less upset, but I'm still upset overall. I mean, he's still obviously going to be my winner though, because we have to compare it with Patrick Mahomes, Mr. State Farm, right? In his classic State Farm red. And so while I just refuse to ever rank him as hot, we do have to admit that he's come a long way. He has come far. And if this ranking was about the glow up, he would win, but it's not. It's about your present day hotness. And I can't see myself voting for Kermit the Frog over CJ Stroud. So although I'm not happy about it, I am also going to vote CJ Stroud, which is another drop in the bucket for the Texans. So again, going with the vote as the Texans. If you have differing opinions, please let me know. Would love to hear your thoughts. But let's see how Toro does in this matchup.